Hello everyone, so this is a very quick video I'm doing. I say a quick video I'm doing, this is like the third time I've done it because the iPad keeps telling me it's ran out of room. But it is quick in the sense that I'm not editing it, I'm not putting the top and tail theme on it or whatever. So it's quick in that, it's a quick response video. So it's a response to two videos I've seen this morning, and it's a subject that's come up again that's probably going to go around, do the rounds. After it did come up a little bit last year, and it created a little bit of a storm, and I think, you know, it didn't have to create a bit of a storm. I think one of the things that I said in the previous version of this video that it doesn't exist anymore, that I think is worth starting with, is the fact that I don't actually think this is as controversial as people think. I think the controversy is built around a few people that think it's something to judge people on about whether or not it's monetized or not. But I don't think monetizing your channel is actually an issue for most people. I think most people don't care. I think, from what I gather, I get the impression that it's just a few people that are upset by it, or judge a channel by it, or get annoyed by it, or whatever. I think most people are just, you know, each to their own kind of thing. And, you know, that's because it's the new norm to have these kind of things in our lives. You know, YouTube it's not that special to put things up on social media, and YouTube is a version of social media. So because it's not particularly special, then people are often quite supportive and enthusiastic if people are going to get paid for it, because they think, yeah, go for it, mate, you know, that's awesome, because they understand the reasoning behind people putting stuff up on social media. And obviously YouTube is slightly different to a lot of social media sites because it's a platform where you could genuinely have discussions. But then I think, you know, people who have discussions about other things, as Mark was saying on his video, don't seem to get the same kind of what he calls snobbishness that you do get sometimes in the bookish community. But again, I don't think it's that many people anyway. So just to clarify what I'm talking about, because I've started waffling. This is about monetization. This is bouncing off the first video I saw this morning, which was from Michael K. Vaughan, where he talked about it, and he had a fantastic video. Definitely should watch it. It's a really good, balanced, interesting video where he talks about why he doesn't do it, and just the subject in general, and why he thinks it can work for some people, and that kind of thing. And it was just a really good video. And then Mark from Book Time with Elvis did a response video to that. So this is a response video to those two. So there might be some others coming up, but those were the two that I've just seen. And I know that it's quite fresh because Mark's one went up an hour ago. So we'll see what else comes up in the discussion. But I wanted to add my 2 cents because I am going to add a few different things, I think, to the mix, because I think it relates to some of the things that I've experienced in my experience as a musician. So because of that, I thought it was worth doing a video. So I did actually make a comment on Michael K. Vaughan's video that refers to this, but I thought it was worth doing it as a video because I think it's an important point. So obviously you get monetized if you've got 1,000 subs and a certain amount of views. I'm not sure how many hours of viewing you need to have, but I'm well away from that so far. I'm nowhere near it. So my subs are going up, which is lovely, and I really do appreciate it. I try and thank people as much as I can. On all my videos, I thank you for the subscriptions, and anyone that's watching me that hasn't subscribed yet, please do. But if you have, I really do appreciate it. So I'm up to 682, I think it is, which is great. And it is going faster. It's going up faster. And apparently I did hear that once you go over 500, it starts going up faster, which is great. But I'm nowhere near 1,000. So this is definitely an objective thing. It's just my opinion. So this is not something I'm actually doing, but something that I thought it was worth talking about, these particular things I'm going to talk about. So that from that point of view, I'm not someone who's doing it, and it's not someone that was going to do it soon, because I'm not going to be at that point anywhere near soon. So yes, it is objective from that point of view. Sorry, I need to cough then. But when you do get monetized, obviously you get money, and I think I'll go over why the amount of money doesn't really matter. But some people are saying that it changes your content, and again, I will talk about why I don't think it would, and I don't think it should, and it definitely wouldn't for me. So I'll give you an example of that later. But it's one of the issues that people say. And I saw one comment on Michael K. Vaughan's video, talked about he was happy to watch ads on a video that looked like it had a budget, but there was the implication that he wouldn't be so happy to watch an ad or something that didn't look like it had a budget, which is an interesting perspective. If I think about my budget, I'm probably more concerned about what the cost might be for me to carry on with this later on in life as I go along than now. Because, for example, most of my recording is done on this iPad, but this iPad belongs to the college. So if I changed my job, I wouldn't have an iPad anymore. I'd have to buy one. Similarly, the editing software that I use is on here, the iMovie, and I have to get other editing software. I do use the Windows Media Player on my PC for doing the top and tail bit, and I used to do it for all the editing, but again, it's an old bit of software, and it's a little bit cranky now, so that might have to get replaced and I have to buy editing software. So again, that's something in the future that I'll probably have to do. I've got a microphone, and I don't know how much the microphone helps, really. So I could think, actually, I need to do more to increase the quality of the audio. I might get another mic, more expensive mic, one of those ones you put on your clothes. I might do that, but again, I haven't done that yet, so that's a cost that will be for the future. So these things could cost something. I think most channels don't necessarily cost a lot of money, really. Mark talks about the cost of books, but you're going to buy books anyway. I don't really think it's about judging the budget. So the person that made that comment, I think they've missed the point that you're just supporting the channel if you don't kick up a fuss about them monetizing, and it's not your money anyway. So when someone says, yeah, but is it justified in them having money if there's no budget? It's not your money anyway. It's some random ad company that the content creator doesn't even know who it is. I don't think it's something that the subscriber has to worry about judging the budget. You've probably got no idea what goes behind a video, really. So I think that was a bit of a strange element of judgment that was happening. Because again, I don't think that's necessary. And another point that's been made is you don't get much money for it either. So if you're going to get judged on it, why do it? So obviously it goes back to the point that you shouldn't get judged on it. But also about the idea that there's not a lot of money in it. I think that's comparable to the royalty money I get for my songwriting. So there's a couple of comparisons I'm making in this video that I think is going to be a bit different to what a lot of people will say, because it's peculiar to my situation. So I get royalties as a songwriter, and principally a lot of those royalties come from what our band does, because the way PRS pays out, I'll obviously get a lot of money if someone decides to put one of my songs on a film or a TV show or something. I'll get a lot of money for that, but that hasn't happened yet. There are some people that do cover my songs, but I'm not getting royalties for those yet, probably because they're not making that public. But there are people covering my songs, which is great. But a lot of the royalties I get for what the band does. So the band gets paid most of the time. We very, very rarely do gigs that aren't paid. We might do a festival that doesn't pay us, something like that. But I always get extra money as a songwriter from PRS if the set list gets sent to them. And there was an example, really clear, obvious example, where there was a big disparity between the two things, where we did a festival where we played one of the main stages as a headliner, and we weren't paid. And it was a great slot to get. It was a good experience, but then we weren't getting paid, that was fine. But then a few months later, I got 600 quid from PRS because I wrote the songs. So I'm very happy with that. And in that instance, I knew what it was. But most of the time, I don't even know where the money's coming from. I don't know why I've got that money from PRS. And it's not normally that much either. It's like dribs and drabs. But I don't think, it does genuinely help. And the money we get as a band, if we don't put it in the collective kitty to pay for equipment or travel or rehearsal time or stuff like that, if we weren't doing that and we split up the payment we've had for that gig, it's not like loads. It wouldn't pay my mortgage on its own, but it does help. It genuinely helps. So anyone that, it helps pay my bills sometimes. So, it could be like just like basic stuff like that. So anyone that makes a judgment about whether someone isn't getting much money, so what's the point? I don't think they understand that that's the way people work. That, not that many people are wealthy and comfortable enough to not need those extra bits of money. And if you do live a life where those extra 30, 50 quid or whatever doesn't make a difference, then congratulations, that's awesome. But that's actually not most people. Most people need that bit of money. So I think that's important to keep that in check. And if you're making a judgment, all of this stuff, any sense of any element of judgmental comments or opinions or videos on this, you really ought to try and put yourself in someone else's shoes, really. But anyway, that's an actual real thing about these sorts of little bits of money get added to your income from something else. It's real. It does make a difference. It's really good, and it's a good. And to be honest, that sort of creative lifestyle, because most YouTubers, I'd say, most booktubers, sorry, not YouTubers, most booktubers, they don't necessarily do lots of different things. They've probably got quite. They don't do lots of different creative things. Sorry, they might just have a relatively uncreative job, but they do booktube, and they've had that sort of big thing at the beginning of like, I don't know if I want to show my face on screen and all that sort of stuff, whereas there's some booktubers like myself that got used to that ages ago and had more of a performer lifestyle, and they do have different income streams, and these little dribs and drabs, they know they make a big difference. So that is true. So don't make any judgments about that. That's what I'm saying. Don't make any judgments about the idea that someone's going to value £20 being thrown at them, or $20 or whatever. So that's an important point about PRS and about how I think that relates to these extra little bits of money. Oh, just to clarify as well for the American people, PRS is the UK royalty collection agency for composing and songwriting. So it's ASCAP, or what it was, 3 in America, but ASCAP's the main one in America. So I wanted to talk about that. I also wanted to mention Patreon, because that's been mentioned as well in both videos this morning. And Patreon is... Yeah, I would have edited that out. Sorry, I'm not going to edit this out. I'm not going to edit this. Patreon, I think, is a really interesting concept. It goes right back centuries. I talk about, in my lessons, when we started talking about Patreon in the second year, we talk about social media in general and how you can earn as a songwriter and a composer and a musician, instrumentalist, whatever, singer, a vocal coach, whatever. We talk about how you use social media, how you might get Patreon members and all that sort of stuff. And we talk about patronage, because that's where it comes from. That's where the word comes from, and it's where the concept comes from. And that goes right back to Mozart getting patrons for his music. So, it's an old concept. It's not new. It's not weird. And my issue with it is really that I don't think of how I could do different tiers for this thing, this booktube thing. And it actually relates to something we've discussed in the band, and that's like making a Kickstarter campaign. And I've resisted it. We haven't done it yet, partly because for me it's simpler to just earn money and use that money from the gigs to pay for the album. An album costs about between £2,000 and £3,000 to make independently. That's just to make the album. To obviously duplicate it and put it on the digital platform as well costs more money, but just to make the album and have it exist as a thing costs between £2,000 and £3,000. Hello. So I'm just doing a video. You all right? Oh, okay. So because of that, we have talked about a Kickstarter campaign, and there's some people that are more keen about it than other people in the band, but we haven't done that yet. And really that relates to creating different tiers of service for different payments you're getting. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. And really, if we do go down that road, then we'll see how it happens. It'll probably be quite exciting, and some Kickstarter campaigns really are extremely effective. And there was that recent thing, wasn't there, with the animation series that was made for Netflix or Amazon, either Netflix or Amazon, based on those D&D guys' Critical Role, and that was a really successful campaign. And a good friend of mine put a lot of money into it because he wanted to see the series. So it makes a lot of sense when people do that. So absolutely nothing wrong with Patreon. It's very similar to Kickstarter, I think. So I think that's my perspective on that. Definitely do it if you can think of those tiers of service that you want to do. And Ollie from Criminally's been doing that, and what he's come up with for those tiers of service are really good ideas, and I can see why people would want to pay him to do that. And then one other thing I was going to say was about sponsorship. So Mike and Mark both talked about sponsorship, and I think that Mark's mentioned the fact that if he spoke about something he was already going to talk about anyway, it wouldn't really matter, it would be fine. And I suppose I think it's slightly different to the others, because I think there's nothing wrong with it, but as a viewer I always skip the sponsor bit, so I don't know how effective that is in general, but then that's the thing about advertising anyway, isn't it? So I do tend to fast forward the sponsor bits, but I watch New Rockstars as much as I can. I love the New Rockstars channel, so they kind of review and analyse sci-fi, fantasy TV series and films and stuff. And there's always these adverts that get put in. Sorry, adverts, I suppose. Sponsorship adverts, and they'll talk about some product that they need to talk about. And it doesn't get on my nerves, but I always skip it. I never ever watch. As soon as you start saying, "Oh, and our sponsorship today is," I'll fast forward it. So I don't like watching it, but I don't have an issue with people who use it at all. So I was going to mention one thing that as well, one more thing, and I was going to talk about this idea with Patreon and getting people giving you money for your service on BookTube, because BookTube is really just people talking about books, and it's pretty informal and not particularly important. There are some people, like I'd say Brian from Bookish does make some really, really important videos, genuinely important videos. Most of us don't, but he makes some really important videos that I think should be shown around the world about race in particular, but about politics in general. I think Brian from Bookish's videos are so important, and I also like the fact that he's making some really good points about race, and he's white. I think it's awesome because, there are some people who think that that's, not his jurisdiction or something, but I don't think they understand history, the people who say that. So anyway, I think Brian is someone that does do important videos. Most of us don't do important videos. So the idea of us getting paid to do this might seem a bit weird. But again, going back to this idea before, it's just something. It's an extra service that YouTube give us a possibility to put ads on there. It's about the ads, and because the ads don't relate to what we're doing, it doesn't really change what we do. That's what I think. But what I'm leading to is sometimes you can create a little community, and you can actually do something that does relate to money, does require money, and does a really cool thing around books that is like similar to those music tutors, like guitar tutors, vocal coaches, music theory tutors, who go on here and they say, well, this is my video, but if you want to know more, you can kind of pay a subscription to a private tutoring lesson thing, and then we can do that. So there's that kind of thing happening on the music side of YouTube. And what I've seen in BookTube, which I'm really impressed with, I've got a lot of time for this man, and that's Matt Wall, who creates these members of his poetry workshops, and I think he's going to eventually, from what I gather, he's going to eventually release material of the people that are in his membership, and their poetry is going to go out there. And I get the impression that those people are absolutely being inspired and encouraged and supported by him, and when he does release this anthology of their poetry, it will be something they wouldn't have released themselves. And he regularly does these workshops and these video calls, video Zoom kind of meetings where they'll thrash ideas out, and they'll sort of get together and they'll sort of talk about where they are with their writing. That sort of stuff, absolutely he should get paid, because it's like tutoring, you know, and he's creating this little community that is bringing out poetry, which wouldn't happen if he wasn't there, bringing it all together, giving them these workshops, giving them these advice, and actually doing it himself. So I think what Matt does is really, really good and important and inspiring and awesome, and it's definitely something that would require money. So when he's got 3 different tiers of people that give him money, and they're all doing different things, and it's all really useful for their creative life. So I think that's a really cool thing. So big props to Matt for that. But in general, you know, if a channel that just talks like this informally about books is getting monetized, it's literally nothing to do with the channel. It's a bit of extra money they can have, and why not? I think that's all the points I was going to make. Please comment below if you think some of that's useful, some of those comparisons I've made, and massive shout out to Mark A. Vaughan, as always, and Mark from Book Time with Elvis, and Matt, who I mentioned at the end. Thanks.